And welcome to Stages with Arthur Ray. That's me, a podcast that addresses the issues of being on stage throughout the stages of life. I'm thinking of that quote by William Shakespeare that says, "All the world is a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their interests, and one man in time plays many parts." God knows I have certainly played many parts and many different stages through my time here. Speaking of the situation in the world, just God bless the situation in the world. I mean, oh my God, we have so much going on with the COVID-19, the coronavirus, the racial tensions, political unrest, a White House that's in disarray. Just only God can handle those situations. So this podcast is not addressing those issues, but I just like to let everyone know that I'm aware of what's happening, and we're asking God to intervene and bless that situation. First, let me thank my producer, the wonderful Heather Buchanan, my partner in creativity. I almost said partner in crime. My partner in creativity. We've been creating together for many years, and she asked me to create this podcast. And of course, I'm always willing to go on adventures of new creations. And so here we are. Let's talk a little bit about myself. I am Arthur Ray, one of many Arthur Rays. Arthur Ray the first was my dad. In fact, that's his picture right there behind me, next to my mom, Gloria Ray, and my Aunt Lorraine, who are all angels, no longer here on the planet, but who are all angels watching over and supporting me even now. So I'm Arthur Ray Jr. There's Arthur Ray III, who's my son, and he has a son who's Arthur Ray IV. So there's many Arthur Rays, but right now we're going to talk about me, Arthur Ray Jr. I was born on the east side of Detroit. East side! I went to Harris Elementary School, Whitney Young Middle School. I was educated in Detroit public school system. I graduated from Denby High School, and I went on to Wayne State University. While at Wayne, I pursued my passion for performing and music and the creative arts. I really wanted to just major in drama and music, but my grandfather, who was paying for my education, was like, "No, you got to do something that you can get a job in." I was like, "You've been playing the piano and acting all your life." So in addition to that, I co-majored in education. I love just being on stage and entertaining. I feel like when I was a child, my grandmother, for those of you who went to African American churches, my grandmother would train us for the Christmas and Easter speeches. And it's like for a child would have to get up and say their Easter speech in front of the whole congregation. This was really a daunting situation, especially for many kids, but not for me. I relished it. I could not wait. I had the huge speech for Christmas and Easter. My grandma was going to make sure that I had the longest one, sometimes 10 and 12 verses, and she would practice me. How you going to get up? How you going to sit down? I think that was the very beginning of my on-stage training with Mother, way back when I was a child. I know I came to this planet just to do what I'm doing now. When I got to Harris School, I was in a production called A Christmas Carol, the story of Ebenezer Scrooge. And me in fourth grade was given the starring role of Ebenezer Scrooge. And I just relished in it. And I remember at the end of that production, there was a lady that came up to the stage and she said to me, "Today, Harris School, and tomorrow, the world." I never forgot that. And I knew at that moment that this is what I wanted to do with my life. I just knew it. Nothing was going to stop me from doing it. Nothing was going to stop. When she said that to me, that was just confirmation that this is what my life would be about. In fact, I came to this planet to do just what it is that I do right now. So I began teaching in the school system. And this particular podcast is focusing on Spirit of Detroit and the Spirit of Detroit awards that I've received over the years. Years ago, I was teaching at a school called Woodward Academy. And this was probably around 2007, 2008, somewhere up in that period. And during that time period in Detroit around Halloween, some people would literally lose their minds. I mean, it was something called Devil's Night that just preceded Halloween, and people would go around, can you believe it, and set houses and garages and cars on fire. I mean, literally lose their mind. It was crazy. And so I wanted to address that issue. So I wrote a scene that addressed that called We Are Angels. And there was about 10 or 12 students that were in this particular scene, and we performed it at the school. And I had one little kindergartner whose name was Devin Williams, who is now an adult man. I saw him not long ago. He's a photographer now. Man, how time flies. But Devin was a kindergartner at that time, and he had the star line in the scene. So after the older children went through their lines, Devin said, and we ain't having it. I mean, it caught on, and we ain't having it. It really caught on. The kids around the school began to say it. One of the administrators alerted the Detroit City Council. They invited us to come down to the City Council in order to produce it there for them. And they gave us the Spirit of Detroit Award. The Spirit of Detroit Award is something that's given to a person, an award that's given to a person or given to an organization that shows the integrity of Detroit and honors a person for outstanding achievement or service to the citizens of Detroit. Well, I was very surprised that the school, as well as myself, received the Spirit of Detroit Award. That was my first Spirit of Detroit Award. Later on, I began working for a company called Global Educational Excellence. And each year I did a winter production and a spring production. And that year I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. And somehow it came to me from out of nowhere, from this vast energy of creativity, the whole storyline for the beginning of the show. Detroit was personified. So I had one actor who played Detroit, and the whole story was told from the perspective of the streets of Detroit. So we had a Grand Boulevard, we had a Mack Avenue, of course we had a Woodward. And the streets just told the story of how Detroit was being torn apart, and it was like really a bad time for Detroit. So I could not come up with the second part of the show. And I talked with my son, Manu, and Manu was able to work with me, and we collaborated together and created the second part of the show. He had little children that represented love, faith, togetherness, family, that represented all of these good qualities that we have in Detroit that came up and actually pushed out the bad elements, which is drugs and crime, who are also personified in the show. Man, this show took on a life of its own. Once again, the president of the Detroit City Council was invited to our school, and she witnessed the show, and she was so fascinated by it that she gave the school the Spirit of Detroit Award. And in addition, she also gave me my second Spirit of Detroit Award. Such an awesome blessing. Later on, after I moved from global educational excellence, I worked on another stage, the stage where I currently am employed at Hope of Detroit Academy. And there at Hope of Detroit Academy, I redid the show. This time with students. I've always worked with students from the African American background, but at Hope of Detroit, I had an opportunity to work with students that were of the Hispanic origin. And we redid the show. We cultivated it so that it fit into that community. And once again, the city council was so impressed that they once again awarded the school the Spirit of Detroit Award, and I received my third Spirit of Detroit Award. And there was talk from the city council members that they want me now to expand the production so that it's not just geared toward students, but will be performed by adult actors and actresses and performed on a huge stage in a life in a big venue somewhere. Of course, right now we're in the coronavirus, so stage productions are kind of at a standstill, but who knows? Who knows what God has in plan? So this is my first installation of the podcast called Stages. On Stage, the stages of your life, the stages being on stage with Arthur Ray. I look forward to meeting with everyone out there again. Tell everyone to join in. It's going to only get bigger and better. Remember, you're on stage. Have a good one.